You'll drink my cup. But when the kingdom comes, God will decide, the Father will decide who's at the right and the left hand. You say, did it come to pass? Well, who are they? James and John. What happened to James? The first one of the inside 12, the apostles, to be a martyr. Head cut off. What happened to John? Traditionally, he was boiled in oil. This we don't know for sure. A lot of traditions. We do know. If you accept the view that he wrote all 5 books ascribed to him in the New Testament, the Gospel, Revelation, and the 3 little epistles, we do know that he was exiled as a Roman prisoner to the Isle of Patmos. Now it was 60 years later. What happens when they drink the cup? One is killed, one is exiled. That was not what the mother had in mind. That's why Jesus asked her the question. When we are seeking the will of God, we better be dead sure that we know what we're talking about. Because the will of God, friends, may not be what you think it is. And Jesus said, I can't promise you the prominence. All I can promise you is the cup. And that's true today. The disciples, the others, didn't like this. They had the same spirit, just didn't get around to say it first. They wanted those jobs. And so we look at the next verses here and go down through verse 24 through verse 28 and have some more about this.
And when the 10 heard it, they were indignant at the 2 brothers. But Jesus called them to him and said, You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great men exercise authority over them. Not so shall it be among you, but whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many.
Here again we have an example where the punchline comes at the end. The rest of it is explanatory. This becomes the final answer. When the other 10 heard it, they didn't like it at all. These 2 are trying to get an inside track. They're going to want the best jobs. If they'd listened to Jesus, they weren't necessarily more anxious to drink the cup either. When Jesus was being arrested in the garden in a few days and hours, they ran to. They're not indignant anymore, they're just afraid. They ran too. And Jesus said, if you are trying to get more people under your control, if your idea of becoming a pastor or a superintendent or a bishop is to give you more power, he said, you belong out there among the Gentiles. That's the way they act. He said this right and left hand business in my kingdom is going to give to the folks that serve the most. Not the ones that have the most power, but those that serve the most. Gentiles lord it over the others. But among you, the greatest one is going to be your servant. Then he added, I'm not talking about you alone. That's the way I live. That's the way I live. Later at the Last Supper, he washed the disciples' feet, teaching them the same thing. Having washed their feet, he taught them again, this time, on Calvary. See? And he says here in anticipation, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to be a servant. Not to be deaconized unto, but to deaconize, to work as a deacon. And then, as the ultimate service, to give his life as a ransom for many. Mentioning current events, dates, films like this. But in the year preceding the time this was being cut, in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, they had cleared the streets of the beggars and the indigent to get them just out of the way, and taken 25,000 of these and put them out on an island in one of those huge rivers that run down through what used to be East Pakistan. And on this island, among these refugees a few months ago, what's true now I don't know, but a few months ago, the only person who was there giving any medical treatment at all was a widow who had become a nurse after her husband's death, a Christian nurse from Australia. And this woman, amid these refugees and the enormous medical needs they had, this woman is there serving as a nurse for 25,000 people. This is what Jesus is talking about. If you're looking for a high place in the kingdom, there's your competition. Find yourself that's worse off than this island out there in the river, and go serve them. Robert Louis Stevenson came to the rescue of the reputation of Father Damien in an article that will be read as long as the English language is printed. Father Damien, as you probably know, was a Catholic missionary to a leper colony in Hawaii. Not being a leper himself, he could travel off the island and then go back. One morning, Father Damien stood up. Instead of saying, "You lepers," he said, "We lepers." He had become a leper by serving them. In the face of this, friends, Catholic, Protestant, high, low, rich, poor, fades away. Let no man split doctrinal hairs. In the face of a man's sacrifice of his life for others and lives the Spirit of Jesus. This is what we need. Jesus said, "Whoever be first among you shall be last, the slave." I wish for you the best place in the kingdom.
Now we trust that you've taken your notes and you're now ready to take our TV Bible exam, which is coming right up. Jesus said, "Many that are first will be, and the last." Jesus said, "Many that are first will be last, and the last first." True or false? The 12 apostles understood clearly when Jesus told them that they were going to Jerusalem, where he would be mocked and spit upon and crucified, and after 3 days rise again. False. The 12 apostles understood none of these things.